Seems like just yesterday I was talking about the state of Android, and now here I am doing the same for iOS a month into its release. A couple of days ago, Ducky put out a couple of tweets on the current state of iOS. Since he's one of the biggest Fortnite mobile creators, I felt this need to be broken down and spoken on. So if you enjoy this video, leave a like and don't hesitate to leave your own thoughts in the comments below. And follow my Twitter where I'll try to be more active. My name's Sam, and let's get straight into the video. As mentioned before, Ducky sent out a series of tweets stating, "The hype around the return of Fortnite Mobile has almost 100% faded away. With Fortnite Mobile iOS only being re-released officially in the EU, and players in other regions having to spend money to get the game, it has caused most interest to rapidly decline. I'm not sure if I had on rose-tinted glasses and thought the return of the game would be much bigger than it ended up being, or if the game being re-released in the EU, plus the fact that it had been banned for 4 years, led to such a small percentage of the player base returning. I don't know the answer to either of these questions, but what I do know is that the Fortnite mobile community is almost all but gone. Very few pros and even fewer content creators returned last month with the relaunch of the game. Since the relaunch, interest has gradually declined, with my videos now doing worse than they were prior to the relaunch of the game. While I see where he's coming from about expecting a bigger turnout for the iOS return, I think the decline in interest with iOS Fortnite mainly comes down to the amount of time that the game has been gone and nostalgia. Now, let me explain. I myself was also under the delusion that when Fortnite comes back to iOS, the mobile community will be saved in its entirety. Now that the delusion has worn off, I've came to my senses and realized that's just not how things work. In my last video, the main point I made was on how Epic didn't keep the people excited about mobile after the ban. Due to Epic's lack of care over these 4 years, the mobile community has faded, and all those people who were once passionate about the game are gone. Even now that the game is back and possible to get, people simply can't be asked. While things like the $20 method to get the game right now can play a factor in this quick decline, if it was available at the start of the ban, it would have been seen as a small price to pay because the community still cared. Now that that's the opposite, this method is too much of a chore for those who haven't had interest in the game in a while. Another thing that comes from this is the people who are prominent in the mobile scene don't have influence on a larger scale. There's no denying that comp and content creators are the bread and butter of a gaming community. The same goes for Fortnite Mobile. The only problem is that the community is gone and doesn't care for this platform. These people that are supposed to attract people to iOS and get them excited no longer have the ability to. This leads to a smaller turnout for the relaunch and a continuous downward spiral as far as viewership. No matter how many content creators and comp players came back, it doesn't matter since the only people watching are the ones still playing Fortnite Mobile or never lost interest to begin with. Another thing that I personally think played a part in these tweets is the nostalgia. There's no denying that when the game got banned, Fortnite was at its peak and was the funnest it had ever been. I believe that since iOS got banned during this, our focus was never really on how fun this time was, but more so on how we missed the performance of iOS compared to the current Android. As someone who played on iOS, when I made the switch to Android, my focus was never on how much fun I was having back on iOS, but it was always on how playable the game was back then. I always assumed that once iOS came back, it would feel like old times. Something I and everyone else on mobile needs to understand is Fortnite is basically an entirely different game now. While the initial comeback of iOS reminded people of just how good iOS was, after that effect wears off, it comes down to whether you still enjoy the game or not. Nostalgia is one hell of a drug, and the most important thing to do is not let it cloud your judgment on certain things. Now granted, with the return of iOS, we are seeing some of the best mobile players we've seen in a while, and the performance is better than we've seen on mobile in a while. But we have to remember that the community isn't the same, the game is in a totally different place, and after that initial "I'm happy the game is back" wears off, all these things tend to come to light. Do I think the Fortnite mobile community will ever make a comeback? Honestly, yes, but I think it's going to take Epic to continue to expand. In my opinion, I think the game is currently in a rebuilding stage, where instead of us looking for old creators and comp players to come back, we need to look forward to a new generation of people who are just as passionate about the game we once were. But in order for this to happen, the game has to fully come back, as the whole $20 method right now is enough to turn people away from the mobile platform. In my personal opinion, it's going to take the game being fully back to attract new eyes. Other than that, I can see the mobile community's slow but steady decline in the near future.